listening to Camello's Corner with Chris Camello. Hello, everybody. Good morning to you. Welcome to Camello's Corner. I am your host, Chris Camello. Oh, hope everyone had a great weekend, Cinco de Mayo and all that stuff. I was actually on baby alert this whole weekend, thinking my sister-in-law was going to have, her and my brother going to have their first child. But it was good. Got to watch a lot of good playoff games. These playoffs have just been fantastic so far. You know what? It seems like each game there's been a different storyline, and all four of these series have been captivating. And there was one series in particular that was captivating, and it kind of set the Golden State Warriors off to the great to a great track, and that was the LA Clippers, who had a fantastic season. And joining me now on Camello's Corner, I've been trying to get this guy on for weeks, but hey, he's starting to move up in the biz. Clipper beat writer for The Athletic, Mr. Jovan Buha, friend of Chris Camello and certainly a frequent guest on Camello's Corner. Jovan, how the heck are you?
I'm doing well, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm glad you were able to, squeeze me in a little bit after your, pregame spots on Fox Sports West with Brian Simeon and Mike Hill, and then your post-game stuff on AM 570, man. Hey, I just want to say first how proud I am of you. I know you and I, we've been sledding in this business for a long time, you in particular, and I'm really glad that the fruits of your labor are now starting to come into fruition and you're getting a lot more opportunities. So just keep up the great work, man.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. This season, I got to say, shout out to The Athletic for giving me the opportunity. It's really allowed me to do the things that I've been wanting to do for a while on a consistent basis. And, just shout out to them for providing that for me. And, it was a hell of a season.
Oh, yeah.
And I did not expect the Clippers to get a couple games on the Warriors, but they did. And I think the future is very bright for them moving forward this summer.
Oh, absolutely. And now they're starting to get more into the act as well as the they're getting more of the headlines. Obviously, we know about the cap space, but it goes beyond that because a lot of teams have cap space. The New York Knicks have cap space. The Brooklyn Nets have cap space. The Los Angeles Lakers across the hall have room for a max player. What makes the Clippers interesting, though, and I'm sure you'll agree on this, it is the structure of their organization from the top down. They have got a very competitive and likable owner in Steve Ballmer. Their front office works really hard. Lawrence Frank, Michael Winger, Trent Redden, and of course, we all know who's lurking in the shadows in a quote-unquote advisory consultant role, Mr. Jerry West. And Doc, not having that same power anymore, being a head coach and not the president of operations, I think all of that has really helped the Clippers become this, and obviously the season that they had as well, but I think the structure has really helped this team really become a more attractive destination for free agents. What are your thoughts on that, Jovan?
Yeah, no, I think objectively, if you look at I believe there are 12 teams this summer that are projected to have 20 or more million available cap space. The Clippers had the second best record of those 12 teams, and the team with the better record, the only team with the better record, happens to be the Sixers, who that's kind of fluky. They're not really going to have 20 million cap space if they re-sign Tobias Harris and or Jimmy Butler.
Right.
So realistically, the Clippers, among the teams with 20 plus million in cap space this summer, they had the best record. Which also correlated to being the best in the playoffs. The Nets and Pacers are also in that group, but the Nets only won one game. The Pacers got swept. So competitively, I think a lot of the teams that are being talked about, like the Knicks, even the Lakers, though I think that that team was probably better than the record indicated. But there were some other teams in there, like the Hawks, and there's some different teams in the mix, the Mavericks, that aren't that competitive right now. And I think if you put a star player on that roster, that might still be a 40 to 45 win team. It might end up being another Lakers situation. But if you look at the Clippers, they won 48 games without a star.
Absolutely.
And you could talk about Lou Williams and Danilo Gallinari, I think those guys are borderline that level, but there is a reason why Lou Williams comes off the bench as a sixth man. There is a reason why Danilo Gallinari has never been an all-star. Like, those guys have their flaws and their kind of limits to what they can do. And I think for this team to have won 48 games based on Doc's coaching, based on their depth, their team culture, just kind of the belief in the locker room that they could win on any given night. This is the first team in NBA history to have 3 comebacks of 25 points or more in the season.
That was incredible this season.
This was a special locker room. I actually just wrote last week that I think it's going to be interesting to see how they try to maintain that culture if they do add a star. I think a guy like Kawhi fits in, and I think a guy like Kawhi would only bolster that culture and kind of maintain it.
Yeah.
There's some other guys that I don't know how they would affect it, like a Kyrie or a KD. Maybe that kind of changes that. I'm not sure. But going back to just kind of the pitch of the Clippers, I think the LA market, which Los Angeles is the number one destination in the league. 80% of the players spend at least a month or so in LA in the off season. It's the go-to off-season hub of the NBA. So whether that's the Lakers or the Clippers, I think LA is the number one destination if you're ranking each team by desired place to live and play. Then you have Steve Ballmer, the richest owner in four professional sports.
Right.
You got Doc. You got like you said, the front office. They've restructured. They've become a very competent team. And I think if you just look at all the moves they've made the last couple of years, they've all been at least like singles. They've rarely struck out on a move. Even the smaller moves have ended up working out in their favor.
Sure.
So to me, I think if you want a competitive team, a very, very good culture and environment, a competent organization, and the LA market, the Clippers have all of that. And I just don't really see another team out there that can compete with them across all those levels.
I agree with that, and I think you hit the nail on the head. The singles and not striking out, if you want to use a baseball reference, and I love you know how much I've been covering baseball, and I love baseball, so I definitely love that reference. So clearly, you know my soft spots, Jovan. Clearly, you've known me a long time. And also too, you think about the steals that they've gotten. I mean, Lou Williams and Montrezl Harrell should be making at least double annually what they're making. I mean, I think they hit free agency a year too early, where Harrell got a 2-year, $12 million deal to stay with the Clippers. That'll go through next season. And Lou signed a 3-year, $24 million extension to stay in LA, and he should be making at least $15 to $16 million annually. I mean, it's just ridiculous that these guys next year are going to be making a combined $14 million annually. It's just it's ridiculous. But Jovan, I want to get down to the big names. I heard from my source, who's an NBA agent, that even though New York could be in the lead, that this source believes a 65% chance, there is a 65% chance that Kevin Durant and Kawhi Leonard both end up in Los Angeles for a number of reasons. For KD, obviously you mentioned what Kawhi could do. He's an LA guy. The Clippers aren't the Lakers. They don't have that same cachet, so he could fit in a little bit easier. And my source believes that a big pitch to KD would be obviously Jerry West, who recruited him to Golden State in the first place, but also the fact that KD is a tech guy, and he's done some technology investments and innovations up in Silicon Valley in his time with the Warriors. And who is the owner of the Clippers? A Microsoft exec. So if that is a selling point for Kevin Durant, never mind that his business offices are out in New York. That could stay as is with Rich Kleiman and all them. But that is a major pitch if you're Steve Ballmer to say, hey, you want to do something in technology? I got the connections. I am a Microsoft exec. So you wrote an article how the Clippers could get KD and Kawhi. Do you think it's 50-50 like some believe, or do you believe that my prediction, based on what my source says, is closer? It's 65-35 that both KD and Kawhi end up in LA.
I would have to go with under 50% confidence personally, just because it's so unprecedented in league history. Like, I was looking back at, really there's only 2 scenarios, at least in modern history, where you could look at a team landing 2 superstar level players, and that's the 2000 Orlando Magic, who coincidentally had Doc Rivers as their coach, They
Oh, right.
signed Grant Hill and Tracy McGrady. But even Tracy McGrady was he was in the beginning of his career.
He was
He
a
hadn't
rising
really broken
star.
out yet.
Yeah.
He had that potential. And then Grant Hill was also coming off those ankle injuries. So while he had established himself in Detroit, he wasn't really at the peak of his powers necessarily either. And then obviously the best scenario, it was LeBron and Chris Bosh in Miami in 2010. But outside of that, it's very rare for two superstar level guys to sign in an offseason, even when teams have had massive cap space. So from that perspective, I would say it's just so unprecedented that I tend to be a little more conservative when I'm making guesses and estimations with certain things. There's also the context of I believe a few years ago, KD had a comment about Kawhi that he was just a system player and that he was more of a product of the Spurs system than his own individual talent and skill. And I think from what I've heard, that kind of rubbed Kawhi the wrong way a little bit. So I would be a little more conservative on that. That being said, the Clippers have multiple paths to clear out that cap space. Right now, they could get to about 55 to 57 million
if they get rid of Gallo.
To sign both guys, they'd have to get to about 71 million. To get there's a couple ways. You can either trade dump Danilo Gallinari, who a lot of those teams with that 20 plus million in cap space are going to strike out. There's really only 4 to 5, maybe 6 top level guys you're going to want to spend your money on this summer, and there's going to be a lot of guys who just stay put. So I think if you're one of those teams that has that 20 plus million, if you strike out, Danilo Gallinari is a fine consolation prize. And if you can
Definitely.
add, if you're a team like Dallas or you're a team like Indiana, you might not get one of those top guys. You got a Danilo Gallinari, he can help propel you to the next level, and maybe you have a Clippers type jump where you get into the 40s and maybe make the playoffs. So if you're
Right.
Indiana, kind of maintain your level, give Victor Oladipo a second guy. So
Exactly.
I think there are going to be plenty of teams who are interested in taking Danilo Gallinari. Another option would be trading Montrezl Harrell and Lou Williams. I think that is a less desired option. You're losing 2 guys in that scenario. Lou was just as important, if not more important, than Gallo this season. So I think probably would rather keep those 2 and move Gallo. But the Clippers have the path to create the opening for 2 max guys. And it doesn't even have to be KD and Kawhi. It could be Kawhi and Jimmy. It could be Kawhi and Kyrie. Like there are multiple guys. Klay Thompson was just linked to the Clippers today this morning by Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN. So I think I don't personally see Klay going there. I think if he leaves, he'd go to the Lakers. But I think there are multiple guys that the Clippers are going to have interest in, are going to pursue. They have the path to 2 max slots, and I think I don't know about KD and Kawhi. I mean, look, if they get those 2 guys, I think they're probably the favorites in the league.
Yeah, they are
the co-favorites. So I think they're going to do that if it's possible. I don't know what the percentage is, but if those 2 guys are willing to come, it's a no-brainer. And to me, it might even be more impressive than LeBron and Bosh, honestly. I don't think
definitely.
one of those guys is at LeBron's level, but the second guy would be better than Bosh.
It's a great point, and I agree. I think it is a little bit far-fetched, but when I heard the reasons why they would consider it, it just starts making sense. Everyone believes that KD is going to go to New York with Kyrie on the basis that the Knicks get the number 1 pick. Here's why I don't think KD goes to New York, or Kyrie for that matter. It is not an upgrade over your current situation, not from a front office perspective, not from a team perspective, not from a coaching perspective. It just doesn't make sense to me to go to New York. Not to mention, his personality, meaning Durant's, does not match that of New York. And he's a sensitive guy, and that is a harsh media over there. Over here in LA, there's a lot of media, but I don't think we're as harsh. Even on Bill Plaschke's worst day, on his meanest day, it's nothing compared to being smeared across page 6 of the New York Post. You know that as well. So we'll see what happens with Durant. Obviously, could stay in Golden State, could end up in New York, if that's a dream scenario. But I think the Clippers, if nothing else, these free agents are going to take a long, hard look at the Clippers and say, how do we fit in? Now, on the flip side of that, Lakers were in a similar position last year. We have a young core. Yeah, we won 35 games. We were excited. We had a big-time free agent with LeBron James. They didn't get that second star, but I think the consensus was, okay, at least out of this group of young guys, somebody's going to emerge as a number 2. That never really happened. Injuries hit, et cetera, et cetera. Could the situation with the Clippers adding a free agent really raise expectations, and now it's like, well, you better win now, otherwise it's going to be seen as a failure like it was with the Lakers? What are your thoughts on that? Because I think one of the things that helped the Clippers this year was the fact that the expectations were low and they were able to exceed them. So now if you add a guy, the expectations are up. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that type of situation.
Yeah, that's a good point, and I think that, well, for one, I think the Lakers situation was a bit of an anomaly, right? Like LeBron, I mean, he is aging, but LeBron James rarely, I mean, that was really the first major injury of his career. It does make some sense given that he's 34, but, you know, I thought that was such a unique situation. You know, the pieces were kind of questionable to begin with, but they also kind of didn't, you know, they kind of went to the worst case scenario in some regards. They had a bunch of injuries, and I think had the Lakers had better health, they probably would have at least been in the mid-40s win-wise and have been competing for the 8th seed at the very least. So I do think the Lakers, it kind of hit the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
So when people talk about that, I think they kind of just gloss over that and want to take shots at the Lakers. But that being said, I do agree with you. I think that, you know, the reason why the Clippers were such a great story were because most people had them in the low to mid 30s, you know, win projection wise, and the fact that they, you know, so overachieved that, you know, they had the Tobias Harris trade where it looked like on paper they got worse, then they actually got better, you know, post trade, and then, you know, making the playoffs, and then pretty much everyone, you know, look at ESPN.com's you know, expert predictions.
Yeah.
Pretty much, you know, everyone had a sweep of the Warriors over the Clippers.
Mm-hmm.
A couple people had like 5 games.
I did.
And yeah, I went with 5, but honestly, I went back and forth, and I was like, you know, I could easily see them sweeping them.
Mm-hmm.
I just heard from enough Warriors people that Warriors tended to slip up and kind of give away games sometimes, so they probably lose 1. But that being said, the fact that they took, you know, 2 games, especially in that fashion, to win both games in Oracle, to have 1 game when you come back from 31 points, you know, the biggest playoff comeback ever, which in my mind makes that the best comeback of all time.
It was.
The playoffs are, you know, the playoffs are raised stakes. It's more important than the regular season. So to have the biggest playoff comeback, to me, you know, especially in that environment in Oracle, the Warriors heading into that game had been 40-6 under Steve Kerr, basically unbeatable at Oracle. So for the Clippers to do that, I thought was, you know, incredibly impressive. Then to come in Game 5, I actually thought Game 5 was arguably more impressive because they basically led wire to wire at Oracle, which rarely happens as well. So they had these 2 incredible wins at Oracle, and the fact that they did that, I think, really kind of, you know, again, like you said, expectations tend to kind of shape how we view these things, and for them to exceed expectations really throughout the entire season, I thought made this such a great season for them. Now, that being said, you add Kawhi Leonard, or you add Kevin Durant, or you add Kyrie Irving to a 48-win team, you're now expected to win 55, 57 games. You're expected to be the 1 or 2 seed. That will change things for the Clippers. Now, you add 2 of those guys. Now you're looking at potentially 60 wins, you know, number 1 seed, conference finals or finals. That's the expectation. So I am interested to see how the Clippers respond to that, how that changes things. I know I've talked to some people around the organization who, you know, are kind of wary of that, where they're like, we weren't even supposed to be in this scenario. Like they were looking at, when they traded Blake Griffin, they were looking at a multi-year rebuild. Yeah. And they've really exceeded it. Like, you know, they got better after trading Blake Griffin. They did. They were not in the playoff picture when they traded Blake Griffin. They almost made the playoffs after trading him. And then similar situation this season, trading Tobias, they got better. So they've almost kind of lucked into this scenario where they have all this cap space. They have this core that now looks a lot better than it did 12 months ago. And you know, they have all these assets, draft picks, and et cetera. So to me, I think there's part of them that's like, we weren't even supposed to be here, so we don't really want these expectations. We don't really want this pressure of you have to get this, or if you do get this, you have to do this.
Yeah.
But look, they're here now, and they have to accept that. I think they're going to accept that, and they're going to roll with it. It's a good problem to have.
Oh, absolutely.
Having too many expectations because you sign a star is a good problem to have. So, we don't know how they're going to handle it because this team hasn't had expectations for a couple of years now. But I do think it is, like the point you brought up is a great point, because this team has not had expectations. Even if they bring back the same team, let's say they don't sign a star, they bring back the same core, kind of roll it over for one more year.
Right.
They're going to have more expectations. They're going to be, all right, playoffs. All right, now your 8 seed beat 6 or 7 seed maybe. Shea should get better. Landry should get better. This guy should get better. So either way, I think they're going to have higher expectations next season, whether they sign someone or not. So I am interested to see how they handle that. Yeah,
exactly. And I think you brought up some really good points. And it is a good problem to have because it is a true test of your mettle. And we saw that these guys, especially these young guys, could handle these big situations. Shea Gilgeous started off the series a little bit slow, but he finished fantastic. You could even make the argument he outplayed Steph Curry, as did Lou Williams throughout that series. Landry Shamet and him together, I think at some point, are going to become the next dynamic backcourt duo like John Wall and Bradley Beal, like Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum. I think those two guys are just that talented, and they have embraced embraced the pressure. And the next thing we will see is whether or not they could embrace the next expectations. What do you think, Jovan, about those two guys being the next great dynamic backcourt duo?
I want to see, because Patrick Beverley said something that was very interesting at their exit interviews, where he was asked about Shea, and he said, the biggest key for Shea is to keep working, just because a lot of players you see sometimes have success as rookies and then kind of have a sophomore slump or don't really progress. And
long list of those guys.
Because the success gets to their head. And
yeah.
From everything I've heard and seen with Landry and Shea, those two guys are, they're always there early. They're always staying late. They're very hard workers. And I think both of those, Shea is obviously more naturally gifted in athletically, but he's not a crazy athlete. And, he has size, which he uses very well at his position, but he's not this like insane John Wall type athlete. And Landry obviously is more of a JJ Redick type. So for me, the fact that both of those guys had the type of success that they had this season and exceeded expectations, their rookie expectations, really speaks to their hard work and their skill. So I do think that both of those guys have that potential. I mean, I've been saying, really since the first time I saw him in Summer League, I've been saying Shea has all-star potential. I truly believe that. I think he continued to show that throughout the season and really stepped up, and especially in that game 4, the Clippers ended up losing, but he had 25 points, was being defended by Draymond, was being defended by Clay, was taking it at those guys. And I think if you could do that against those caliber of defenders on that stage, you could do that against anybody. Landry, I just wrote about this in a mailbag a couple weeks ago. His rookie numbers are very like the number one guy he's been compared to is JJ Redick, who's his teammate in Philly, kind of his mentor there for the first half of the season. He's kind of tired of those comparisons because it's happened so much. But look at other guys, and I don't want to put him on this level yet, but Klay Thompson, Reggie Miller, Ray Allen, Rip Hamilton, all these guys who are so good at moving off the ball and shooting, his rookie numbers were very comparable, and in some cases better than those guys as rookies. So you don't want to put him on that level yet. It's way too premature. But talking to the guy, he's as mature of a 22-year-old as I've ever spoken with. He hit that shot in Game 2, the biggest shot of his career.
Right.
He stepped up defensively on Steph Curry. I thought that was the most underrated adjustment of the series, was putting him on Steph. He really locked into him. And if you look at when he started defending Steph did not go off.
He was great. He was great. Yeah.
And so Landry, I think if you told me 5 years from now they're both all-stars, I would not be surprised. I think they fit very well together. Shea kind of has the size to make up for Landry's a little bit lack of size, but then Landry has the shooting to complement Shea. And I just think together that they're the future of the Clippers backcourt. And, unless barring a trade for a star, maybe Anthony Davis or something like that, I don't see the Clippers moving either one of those guys, and I think they're going to be together for a while.
They're part of that foundation. Jovan Buha of The Athletic. Jovan, I got a couple more. The one thing that people haven't really talked about, and by the way, I appreciate you being generous with your time on this lovely Monday morning here. So I just want that. I just want you to know that ahead of time.
Of course.
Yeah,
of course.
I appreciate that, buddy. A couple more questions for you. The front court position. Now, obviously, Zubac is a restricted free agent. If the Clippers strike out in a scenario, and it's possible with Durant and Kawhi, could you see them shifting their focus instead of bringing back Zubac, who did not end the season well, hardly played in the playoffs, in fact got benched for the latter part of that series? Could you see them going after a guy like Nikola Vucevic, and how much do you think he would fit in with the Clippers, and not just with his skill set, but the culture as well?
So, from my understanding of the Clippers' Plan B, so
former
USC
USC guy, by the way, just want to throw that out there. Sorry to interrupt. Former USC guy.
No. I covered him while he was at SC. I was there around the same time, and he's really surprised me because I was actually not high on Vooch coming out. I didn't think he was that good of a rebounder, which I was quickly proven wrong. I didn't think he could shoot the ball well enough, and I was quickly proven wrong. So Vooch is and I'm an SC guy. Like he's exceeded my expectations. It's been really nice to see his development and him becoming, an all-star, and I think one of the best centers in the league. But that being said, from my understanding of the Clippers' Plan B, Plan A is signed. I think for them it's going to be KD, Kawhi, Kyrie, and Clay. Those are their four guys. Jimmy Butler will be borderline depending on the contract length. I do not think they will give him a 4-year deal. I think they'd give him a 2-year deal, maybe 3. And if he's willing to accept that, if he can't get the max from Philly or doesn't, wants to compete and try to be on a really good team, which it seems like he, for him, competing is always the thing. He hates losing. I could see him maybe taking a 2 or 3 year deal with them, but otherwise I do not see them offering him a 4-year deal. If they don't get one of those 5 guys, I do think they're going to sit out free agency, barring a 1 or 2 year deal for a guy like Vucevic or Chris Middleton or maybe Kemba. I think Kemba's really good, but I just don't see it. If he can't get Charlotte to the playoffs in the East, I just don't see the appeal of signing that guy to a 4-year deal, especially in the West. So
that's true.
From what my understanding, if the Clippers do not get one of their top 4 or 5 guys in free agency, that superstar level, that clear max guy, they're going to sit it out because if you look at a guy like let's just say Chris Middleton, you sign Chris Middleton, you're basically in the same position you were when you had Tobias Harris. Like him and Tobias are very similar level players. I'd probably say Chris is a little bit better, but you're basically recreating the Tobias Harris scenario that you just wanted to avoid. Now that said, you did trade him for assets. You got Landry back. You got a couple nice picks back, so you do have more in the asset cupboard. But you're basically recreating the same type of ceiling. Having a guy like Chris Middleton, I would put Vooch on the similar level. So, from my understanding, if the Clippers do strike out, they're just going to sit this out.
Okay.
And maybe if those guys want to come on a 1 or 2 year max deal, and they can't get the money from their team, or again they want to compete, I could see them signing Vooch on a 1 or 2 year deal. But if the Clippers strike out, I think they're going to push their cap space to 2020 or 2021.
Okay.
And just kind of bring back the same team. And then if a star comes to the trade market, I think they're very well equipped to acquire a star. And they have a lot of assets now. They have picks. They have young guys.
Yeah.
And they have expiring. They could trade Gallo.
They have salary.
Trez,
Yeah.
So I think for them, it's going to be a patient approach. They're not going to rush this process.
Okay.
Sign a dumb contract. I think for them, they've shown their ruthless. Even Blake Griffin, who now has bounced back with Detroit, they did not deem at that level as a franchise player. I would be very, very surprised if they went with a Vucevic or a Middleton as their go-to guy.
It's going to be an interesting summer, that's for sure. And obviously there's so many components to it, and we I think we covered a lot of them. Just a couple of small, quick questions. Jovan, who comes out of the West?
This season?
Yeah.
Golden State.
Okay. Who comes out of the East?
Oof, that's the tougher one. I'm going to say Milwaukee.
You know what?
But I'm not confident in that.
I'm just saying this right now. If Giannis continues how he's been these last 2 games, which has been in beast mode after really struggling in Game 1, and I tip Boston and their defense for that in Game 1, I would not be surprised if Milwaukee runs the table on the rest of their Eastern Conference opponents, that's for sure. And finally, who wins it all?
Golden State. I think, they've shown in this Houston series, like, they could easily be down 1-2, but they could also be up 3-0, and I think the Clippers ended up being a nice kick in the pants for the Warriors, where they realized that, for as talented as they are, they're not just going to coast, to the finals. And I think you've seen a much more engaged Warriors team on both ends against Houston. I think, for all intents and purposes, Houston, playing Houston is their Western Conference Finals. I think this is a much harder matchup for them than Portland or Denver would be. So I think if they can get, we'll see what happens in Game 4. If maybe Houston ties it up and it goes to 6 or 7, but they win Game 4. That you got to think they're heavily favored to win Game 5 and close this out in 5. And if they do that against Houston, it would not surprise me if they swept Denver or Portland or maybe lose one game. But I think you could see a scenario in which they go 4 losses into the finals, and then at that point, you got to like their chances as the 2-time defending champs. But look, like I think we've all tried to talk ourselves into other teams to make this more interesting. But at the end of the day, they have 4 All NBA caliber players. They have 2 of, in my opinion, 2 top 3 or 4 players in the league. I think Durant might be the best player in basketball right now. So
yeah, and Draymond's been fantastic. Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And the thing that people have talked about, everyone's talked about, Durant, and Durant's been incredible. I mean, it helped to put the Clippers away. He put up a 50 spot in Game 6, and Draymond it took a triple double, and still they were up double digits in the second half of that game, and the lead still never felt safe. But those 2 guys have been playing out of this world. But a fantastic job you did covering the team this year. And I loved your last after the Game 5, dogs, roaches, and what was the third one? Killers, yeah. I tell you, man, that team, we've seen successful Clipper teams in years past with Lob City and Blake and Chris Paul, DeAndre, Redick, and Jamal Crawford, but this team was probably the most likable Clipper team, whether you're a Laker fan, Clipper fan, NBA fan, that I have ever seen. And obviously you had a front row seat to all of to see all of that up close this year. So fantastic job you did, Jovan, this year, and really appreciate all your content, your interviews, and everything like that. And definitely enjoy the off season until July 1st. Tell my
for that.
Oh, absolutely. Tell my listeners how they could follow you.
Yeah, follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Jovan Buha. That is at JOVANBUHA. Also have the Clip City podcast, which I do once a week. We'll probably ramp that up around free agency, but you can check that out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher. Just search Clip City or Blue Wire. Then also, last but definitely not least, subscribe to The Athletic, read my work on there, read our other great NBA content. And I'm looking forward to a busy summer.
Hey, Jovan, real quick, is there a chance I could join Clip City one of these times?
Yeah, man, definitely. Definitely, I'd love to have you on.
Beautiful. We'll work something out.
We'll work out. Yeah, we'll figure out schedule time.
For sure. Yeah, I'm just saying I don't want to impose. That's a great thing you got going, and you've had some big time guests on it. But I would love to join you one of these times on your turf.
Definitely.
All right, man. Thanks again so much. Have a great day. Have a good enjoy these next 6 or 7 weeks before the true off season begins. But great job as always, man. And I appreciate you coming on today.
Of course, man. Anytime. Happy to.
All right, brother. Take it easy.
You too.
All right, thanks. Jovan Buha, great guy. Great stuff. Follow him on The Athletic. Follow him on Twitter. And he is very good at getting back to people. So if you ever at him or mention him and everything, he will reply to a lot of your stuff. So great stuff from great reporter, great journalist. Yeah. NBA playoffs have been something else. Golden State had a chance to put their boot on Houston's throats. They had them on the ropes. That game went into overtime. Steph Curry, a horrendous performance, 7 of 23, missed a lot of bunnies late. I don't know if it's that ankle, but the fact is he has not been that good in a while. I mean, you could arguably say since game 1 of the series against the Clippers, he's not been that same dynamic threat where he has gone off for 35 and done it efficiently. He's had some good games in the series finale against the Clippers. He had 24, 6, and 6. He's had games where at times he's looked good, but first 3 games of this series have not been that good for Steph Curry. And obviously he's got the finger dislocation as well. Forgot to mention that, but clearly he's not right. And thank goodness for a guy like Kevin Durant and what he has done. He had 46 again in Game 3. He has had, even though he has not shot well, he missed some shots late in that game against the Rockets. He has not shot the ball particularly well. You wonder if fatigue has maybe caught up with some of these guys. Klay Thompson hasn't really gone off to start this series. He also had an ankle twister in Game 1. But they've still found ways to win games, and it's been Durant who's been phenomenal. And Draymond Green, who had a triple-double. They were up until Game 3's loss. When Draymond has a triple-double, they are 27-0 in playoff history. I mean, he has been such an X factor for them and been playing his tail off. Steve Kerr has mentioned he shed some weight late in the season. He looks fresher. Obviously, he's still having that impact on the defensive end, holding everybody accountable. However, they're still in this position where it's like if you don't get enough from Steph, that's what makes this team vulnerable. Because as great as Durant is, as great as Draymond is, and even Iguodala has been fantastic, knocking down clutch threes, playing great defense on James Harden, being that veteran leader on the floor, the buck still stops with Steph Curry. Just like in Philadelphia. If you don't get a great game from Joel Embiid, Sixers, no matter how well Jimmy Butler may be playing, or Harris, or Redick, or Ben Simmons, they are not the same team. You need to have your star players have a star effort. It's the bottom line. And so far, we have not seen that from Steph. And maybe tonight he bounces back and puts up a 30 spot. And I'm gonna give credit to the Clipper defense going back to the first round. I'll give credit to the Rockets defense. I think they've done a great job. Chris Paul, is a very physical defender. PJ Tucker, when he's been switched out on him, has done a good job. They got all these other veteran guys, Gerald Green and Iman Shumpert, Eric Gordon. These are guys who are solid defenders, know how to keep their man in front of them. They've seen a lot of Steph Curry. They know what he wants to do. They're going to do whatever they can. Not to mention, and here's another factor, he's been in foul trouble a lot throughout these playoffs. And I think that has kind of hindered his rhythm as well. But still, you've got to find ways to be more effective. Play defense without fouling. Try to stay on the floor as much as you can. They don't have a deep rotation right now. Steve Kerr is going maybe 8 guys deep. Looney and Livingston and maybe Bogut. And that's it. We're seeing the death lineup or the Hampton 5 starting games now. So that's where we're at with Golden State. And this isn't the first time we've seen Steph Curry struggle. And obviously in recent years it's been because of injuries that have kind of hampered him, groin, knee, ankle, whatever the case may be. Yet he has still struggled at times. And there's a reason why he is not a Finals MVP. It's gone to Iguodala. It's gone to Durant. And we've seen this from not just Steph. We've seen this from Harden as well. It seems as though at times when the stage is at its biggest, these guys don't always deliver. When their best is needed to put a game to rest. These guys struggle. Now, James Harden kind of flipped that script a little bit in Game 3. 2 bad eyes. He has not shot well in this, in the first 2 games of the series. And yet he still came out and he was fantastic. They ran him off the 3-point line. He went to the floaters, made some big threes when it was required. And I think, honestly, his defensive effort has actually gone up as well. But once again, another guy who has not been great throughout this postseason. Shooting-wise, these guys are going to get their numbers because their usage rates are through the roof. They're still going to put up 28, 29 points, but it's not going to be very efficient. So what these teams need, both the Rockets as well as the Warriors, they're going to need their stars to step up. Stay out of foul trouble. Avoid serious injury. Stay on the floor. And deliver when you are on the floor. Not miss open looks. Not miss shots at the rim. That's what it's going to take. I know you're dinged up right now, but so is everybody else. And if they're not dinged up, they're certainly battling fatigue. I think at times Steph is, and I was listening to this all morning, Steph has gotten a pass because of his likability. He's got a kind face. He looks like a kid. He's kind with the media. And yeah, he at times can still dominate. But I think some of his issues, especially in recent years, have been masked because of the addition of Kevin Durant. So the margin for error is a lot bigger than it was in 2015 and 2016. Not to mention the system that you play in. It's not just you being a ball-dominant player. It's based on ball movement, pace and space, as they call it now. So Steph the Warriors are able to survive a lot more without Steph playing at an elite level. That's what it comes down to. Because of Durant, because of Iguodala, because of Draymond, because of Clay. Great. Harden and the Rockets don't really have that same kind of, they don't have that same luxury. Because even though you have Chris Paul is not quite the same guy as he was 3-4 years ago with the Clippers. You're not getting that version of Chris Paul, and you're certainly not getting that version of Chris Paul in this system where now he's got to share the ball handling duties with James Harden. So he's not as effective of a player. He's still going to give you 16 to 20 points. He's still going to give you, 6, 7 assists, 5 rebounds or so, play good defense, be a leader in the locker room. Yeah, that's great, but you're paying a lot. If you're the Rockets, you're paying a lot of money to a guy with questionable hamstrings, questionable health. The shots aren't quite falling at the same level as they were in LA. And his impact is not quite there because he doesn't have the ball in his hands consistently. So there it is. I wanted to, I had so much to talk about today. I'm going to have to probably go on a different tangent, but the shop is about to come out real soon. LeBron and Lonzo are both on it, and they had
Magic step down.
They had some things to say. I'm going to get to that clip right now. What LeBron had to say when Magic stepped down and his thoughts on it.
What was that?
How did you find out?
Yeah, what was that process like?
Through him.
You found out Magic stepped down through him.
Yeah, he came locker room.
Yeah, and I found out from Randy. Between my stretching session, my right hand comes to me and say, Magic just stepped down. And I'm like, man, get the fuck out of my face. You bullshit. I go check my phone. I look at it. The shit happened. Personally, for me, I came here to be a part of the Lakers organization, having a conversation with Magic. So it was just weird for him to just be like, I'm out of here. And not even have no like, hey, Bron, kiss my ass, I'm gone. It wasn't even that.
Yeah, but it was different for me. Like when I was like, damn, this shit crazy. And I took a minute and I was like, yo, cool, what we doing tonight?
Very interesting. How LeBron was shocked, obviously. But Lonzo was kind of like, yeah, whatever kind of a thing. And I think this goes back to the whole how the Anthony Davis situation kind of reared its head. Like, hey, man, you were trying to trade me. I'm not, okay, yeah, you're gone. All right, bye. You don't want to be here. First of all, you didn't want me here. Then you try to say, like, we shouldn't be acting like babies. So, there was clearly an aspect here that Lonzo was kind of whatever about it. LeBron was shocked. And, yeah, the timing left something to be desired. Because Magic actually wanted LeBron James here, right? He was the one that recruited him in free agent. I think LeBron was coming regardless because of the Hollywood aspect, the secondary businesses, him trying to build up his status as a media mogul. It just all made sense. He's got a home out here, of course. And yeah, Magic drafted Lonzo, but he also tried to trade him along with Ingram and Kuzma and all these other guys. And not only did, he not make that clear at the deadline or even try to squash the rumors, he tried to say, hey man, these guys are all professionals. Don't treat them like babies. And I understand, me personally, I understood where Magic was coming from with that. Like, hey, this is part of the business and whatnot, but also at the same point in time, there are ways of making things clear to players. That way they hear it from your mouth and not from the media's. And I said this before, one of the biggest mistakes that Magic and Rob made was not making the trade situation clear to Lonzo, to Kuzma, to Ingram, to any of those guys, to the team, period. And that's why on this clip of The Shop, which is on HBO, why LeBron was surprised and shocked and probably felt a sense of betrayal, and why Lonzo was like, whatever, man. You tried to trade me. You want to step down? Step down. So there it is. And yeah, if you watch The Shop on HBO, it comes on once a month, and they're in their second season. They're about to have their third show. Don Cheadle's on it, Jimmy Iovine, Maverick Carter. I don't know who that other guy was. Obviously Lonzo and LeBron as well. But yeah, very interesting stuff. And I like how real some of these guys get. I'm not a big fan of the profanity, and I apologize for some of that stuff. But I'm not FCC regulated. I can kind of say and do what I want, although I try to keep it clean. I don't know who's listening and whatnot, who's downloading. But yeah, I definitely understand where both guys were coming from. And certainly the big issue now with the Lakers is where do they go from here? Monty Williams has committed to the Phoenix Suns job, which basically leaves Tyronn Lue as the lone candidate for the Lakers. Not to say that they don't have other options, but I think at this point it would be silly to not have Tyronn Lue as your next head coach. By the way, he was going to the fights, the Jacobs-Canelo Alvarez fight with LeBron and Maverick Carter this past weekend in Vegas. What do you think they spoke about? How we're going to get reunited again? And to be honest, I think with LeBron here for the next 2, possibly 3 years, Ty Lue makes the most sense. As much as I liked Monty Williams, I think he's well respected. I think he's a really good head coach. The fact that he took the Phoenix job over the Lakers showed me one thing. I don't think he's ready for the big lights that is Los Angeles. Period. I think he wants to go to a place where the expectations are lower. He won't feel the pressure to win right away. He could develop some of that young talent, not to mention they're going to have a top 3 pick, so they could end up with Zion or Ja Morant. I think Morant is what they need. They definitely need a point guard. And I think that's where he's going to feel most comfortable. And to be honest, everywhere he's coached, head coach or assistant-wise, it's been in a small market. He was a head coach in New Orleans. He was an assistant in OKC. He was an assistant in San Antonio. Yeah, he's been an assistant in Philadelphia, semi-big market. I would say 4th or 5th biggest in the country. So he understands what expectations are and whatnot. And maybe he feels like, yeah, you know what? This is where I want to be. Even though they've been going through coaches like crazy. I mean, since Mike D'Antoni left, I want to say they've gone through at least 6 or 7 head coaches. Alvin Gentry, Lindsey Hunter, Terry Porter, Earl Watson, and this guy Igor Kukarov, or whatever his name is, recently, who barely got a year in. There's a lot of dysfunction there in Phoenix with Robert Sarver, their owner. They got rid of their executive, Ryan McDonough. They got rid of David Griffin, a really good executive for a while. James Jones now is their general manager. I don't know what's in his head. So, but they're starting to build a foundation. If they can get one more piece, they might have something. Who knows? I like Ayton. I like Booker. If they can get a Morant or a Zion, then they could be in a Philadelphia-type situation. But I tell you, when you have a bad ownership and a dysfunctional front office, it definitely, pushes people away. Not to mention they haven't done a great job drafting in other years when they've been a perennial lottery piece for a long time. But clearly the fact that Monty took that job told me everything I needed to know. And I'm not mad at him for taking that job whatsoever. I think it was a safer bet. Expectations are low. If we win, I get the credit. If we lose, well then, hey, not all of the blame will fall on me. It'll fall on the front office. It'll fall on the ownership and the dysfunctionality and whatnot. So I'm in a win-win regardless. All right? Arizona's a good town to live in. West Coast, probably a good place to uproot his family at. Good weather. Not too far from LA. And I think Ty Lue ultimately was going to be good. I think the only issue with Ty Lue is, can he be the right coach for the Lakers if and when LeBron decides to hang him up? That's the question. Because he got fired out of that position in Cleveland, where after LeBron left, they were in a rebuilding mode. Granted, I think some of it was due to his health, but that remains to be seen. I'm not saying he can't do it. I'm just saying we don't know if he can because he hasn't really been in that position. When he took over the team, the Cavaliers, that is, in 2016, after David Black got fired, he inherited the coaching staff. He inherited a team that had LeBron, that had Kyrie, that had Kevin Love, solid group of, the foundation was already set. Solid group of role players and a good front office. And he ended up gutting out a championship and going to 2 more finals after that. So he obviously knows what it takes to coach a LeBron James, to coach guys around LeBron James, what works around LeBron James. I think the question is going to be, can he develop? And the question is, and a bigger question is, what assistants does he bring around him? There's a report that he wants to hire Tom Thibodeau as his lead assistant / defensive coordinator, so to speak. Now, Tibbs wants to be a head coach, but there's only 2 jobs available now, assuming Lue takes the Laker job. It's going to be Memphis and Cleveland, and they haven't even interviewed Tom Thibodeau. Not to mention, I don't think he wants to go there, and I don't think they want him there. So if I'm Tibbs, I'd say, why not be in LA for a year or 2 as an assistant? And if a head coaching job opens somewhere else where I think it's a good fit for me and I could just focus on coaching and not being an executive in addition to that, then I'll take it. Get a chance to coach LeBron James, be in LA. I think Ty Lue would also consider bringing back Brian Shaw as an assistant, former Laker teammates. So if he could surround himself with a good group of assistants, and I'm sure if once he officially gets the offer to become the Lakers head coach, he's going to consider that. And then we'll see what happens from there. The rest is going to be on the front office. So we shall see what happens. All right, I'm going to get into Dodgers just real quick, but I gotta start rolling out of here soon. Dodgers went 3-3 on this last road trip against the Giants and the Padres. Both teams gave the Dodgers all they could handle. Cody Bellinger, player of the month, record-breaking month of April. Phenomenal season. He's actually started off May quite strong. The Dodgers had a couple of big comeback wins in all 3 of these games against San Diego. Unfortunately, Kenley Jansen, going for the 3rd straight day, could not lock down his 13th save. He gave up a walk-off grand slam yesterday. Dodgers lost 8-5. They still took the series. They will be at home tonight against the Braves. Dodger bullpen continues to remain a big question mark. They almost blew a game on Saturday night. Joe Kelly got 1 out and then left the bases loaded in the 6th. Yimi Garcia minimized the damage, but Kelly got pinned with all 3 runs scored, and rightfully so. I mean, he just did a horrible job. It continues to be a massive question mark. And the thing is, it's like, well, why use Kelly in some of these spots? Because Joe Kelly, you're paying $8 million to a year. You brought him here to be a solution to late game situations, which was a problem last year for the Dodgers. The bridge to Jansen, which is something you really haven't had since Brandon Morrow. I'll tell you, the 2 guys that have been able to consistently do it have been Dylan Floro, who's got his first full season with the Dodgers, and Pedro Baez, who is trying to build on what he did in the second half of last year. And even he has had those moments where you still cringe when he comes out. Yet, for the most part, he's been good. He hasn't been perfect, but he's been good. And you're hoping at some point Kelly's going to turn it around. But that has been the problem. Justin Turner starting to round into form a little bit. Corey Seager's still struggling. I said he would. I said you got to give him a couple of months to get back into playing every day and get that swing together. Max Muncy, fantastic series. Now they just picked up Travis d'Arnaud, good right-handed bat, a third catcher, with Martin struggling offensively. But ultimately, Dodgers doing good. And Alex Verdugo, fantastic stuff so far. And certainly with the injury now to, not the injury, but the surgery on the infection, the staph infection or whatever it is on A.J. Pollock's right elbow, it's good to have a guy like Verdugo now playing every day and getting those at-bats. Chris Taylor is now starting to come around. I think he's going to benefit from Pollock's absence, a guy that could play center field in addition to Cody Bellinger, Jock, or even Verdugo. So that's the great thing about the Dodgers. One guy goes down, and we don't know how long Pollock's going to be gone. Could be 4 to 6 weeks. It could be 3 months. We don't know. It's good to know you have those guys ready to go and being able to contribute every day. All right, that's going to about do it for me here. At Chris_Camello on Twitter. I'm on Instagram, CCamello1, Facebook, Camello's Corner by Chris Camello. Thank you to Diff Eyewear. Thank you to Purple Sugar. Thank you to Fasha Fasha. Check all them out on Instagram as well. And also check me out on SoundCloud, Camello's Corner, as well as Apple iTunes to download all of these shows. Been good stuff, guys. Thank you again to Jovan Buha of The Athletic as well. Great interview. Clipper beat writer. Check him out. Take care, guys. Listening to Camello's Corner with Chris Camello.